I don't want to go to bed because I haven't had any fun today. And I'm annoyed by that. I don't feel like I deserve to have fun. I'm disappointed in myself for not having fun. It's a character flaw. It's like well, how come I didn't, I tried to make burgers. A lot of today, it was a Monday. So, it's like you already have something working against you, sort of this connotation with Monday. I would like to talk about that one day, connotations with words. There's something that I find significant about that, that I feel like doesn't get talked about in the way that I think about it, which is, I, I think about it in this way, like, um, the connotations that we have with words are meaningful. Maybe even more meaningful than the definition of the word. So you have the definition of the word, but then culturally you have how most people use that word and perceive that word. And in my view, there's several things with that. I don't think that I don't think that people at large or the majority of people are extremely literate. In other words, like I don't think that literacy, aside from just the aspect of actual literacy, like whether you can read or not, I don't think that not all people are very like word oriented. So like less you have interest in it, the less you're going to care about actual definitions of words. But you'll learn them through context. I remember being at this cafe I used to hang out at, and there was like a table of like intellectual dudes that used to hang out, and they were super snobby, and sometimes they like hurt my fucking feelings a few times, especially with like pop culture stuff, like music and movies. They would be such like assholes about just my simple opinions. They'd be like, "Oh, no, that's not a good movie." And then I even had one of them like regret it and like come up to me later. Actually, that same dude with two different movies. I told him Idiocracy was brilliant and that it was like like a commentary on society that was valuable, and that it was funny and I liked it. And he was like, "Oh, it was just awful. Like I could barely watch it." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know like if we saw the same movie then, because like it was really clever and like it made good points about like where society is headed." And that was like when it first came out. And then he later told me he thought I was right about that. And then Passion of the Christ as well. Like I watched that movie and I said it's a beautiful movie and I think it's worth watching. It wasn't like a movie that I really, really liked, but I did find it impactful. I did find it interesting. And later he came back to me on that too and said, actually, I watched it again and I agree with you. It was good. So like I don't know. I think that to me, the reason why I bring that up, why he like regretted his like former disapproval of my opinions before, I think why that was significant to me is that it showed me that he had uh, a bias against my opinions. He didn't want to trust my opinions. So he just didn't think that I had anything valuable to um, contribute, as far as my perspective. He didn't find it valuable. So he was initially very dismissive of it. And I think it bothered him when he would dismiss my opinions because, like, I think people will sometimes, like, I'm not on paper an educated person, or I doubt that I would get a very high IQ score. Um, Especially not being like academically intelligent. Like I'm not very good with that stuff. So I have huge gaps in my education. Um, but I think it bugged intelligent people that were very well read or were very book smart when I could intuit a perspective that took them, pages and pages to unravel in their studies. And I think it's because of the way that I was raised, the way that I think. Um, I think I could even break down the way that I think, and I think I'm almost afraid to do that because whatever charm there is in my ability to intuit these things, I think I could break it down pretty easily that like it's a type of formula that almost anybody could apply. Um, so I don't think it's very extraordinary at all. But I do see that in some ways I'm better at intuiting wisdom. Is that the right word? Intuiting? I'm better at my intuition. Oh, anyway, um, so there's a lot of subjects right there actually, but when I was talking about like negative connotations with things, so we will naturally characterize words without thinking about it. And uh, there are certain words that actually have no negative connotation to it. If you look at the definition of the word, it's just a descriptive word or such. But a lot of people will have a very negative opinion of it. Sales is something I was thinking about a few days ago. Is a lot of people have a very negative connotation with uh, the role of a salesperson or the industry or what is it, the skill that is called sales or something. Um, I think because this is my guess, but I think that a lot of people, their primary example that they use, the connotation that they use for salesperson or salesman is either a used car salesman, which has a very bad reputation. So automatically people think it's a person who is a fraud who is trying to sell me something that isn't good, um, and is trying to scam me. And then I think there also is a big connotation with sales, maybe as in like snake oil salesman. And I think, you know, especially before um, you could broadly, stop someone from being a con artist, when the days of the con artist are becoming slimmer because there's so much ability for people to expose them. So, uh, you know, when it was just the newspaper and the mail, you couldn't as easily stop someone from scamming other people. Maybe you knew exactly how they scammed people, but it was hard to get the word out. So it was a legitimate, like, um, well, that's the wrong word to use. Not legitimate, but like it was a real um, way to make money. Like I read Lenny Bruce's autobiography, How to Talk Dirty and Influence People. And he was a con man before he was a stand up comic. And he talks about dressing as a priest and, um, I mean, basically like taking money from, vulnerable people. I'm sure he was a charming guy and fun to be around and very smart, I think. And so, yeah, definitely very smart guy. And I think people probably did really enjoy his company and they probably wanted to give him money. And um, so I think about that. And I was thinking about the sales, like sales as a term, that especially if you use it now, I think a lot of people have a negative connotation with it. But sales, to me, is something different than I think that a lot of people think of it as. I think sales and marketing is important, right? It's just part of life. So if anything becomes successful and you want other people to know about it and you want other people to have access to like buy it, um, you're going to need to uh, incorporate sales and marketing and advertising, you know, even telling a friend about it, like even uh, word of mouth is a type of advertising. Um, so I, what I'm saying is I think that a lot of people might relate sales to this whole like capitalist uh which it is related to capitalism, I suppose, but more I guess that would be more fitting than some other connotations people have with it. But I think people think of it as a dirty uh industry or a dirty field of work to be in. I think that's only true if you're selling something you don't like. So I think if you're selling pens, but you think those pens are cool, selling pens is such like an old sales uh, trope, as an example. But like nobody sells pens, but somebody sells pens actually, but what I mean is that you could take something very simple and as long as the person knows that the product is a good product, it's a pen. It does what it's supposed to do. It's not going to fail the person who buys it thinking that they're going to have a pen to write with. They will have a pen to write with. It may not be the best pen, but if it does what the salesperson says it does, they're not scamming anyone. Selling a decent product and selling anything that's better than a shit product is fine. Like, because people should have their own judgment and they should, uh, decide about quality for themselves. Oh, um, I guess I'm getting tired and I have to go, but I guess I will talk more about negative connotations next time and see where that goes. Maybe not sit like this.